Hi everyone, Chuck HAWSK3 here. The purpose of today's video is I want to give everyone an overview on how to wire the HAWSK3 ADA wall control to a Broan range hood. First things first, depending on what range hood you have, make sure there's an ADA kit and make sure you have the proper ADA kit for the hood you're working on. In this case, the range hood that you see in front of you is a Broan GLA1. For the GLA1, the HAWSK3 ADA kit is the approved kit. I have this kind of set up just for training purposes. I have the hood mounted basically to a wall. There's two wire diagrams. What you're going to need to know is how you're going to bring power in. There's two ways of doing it. You can bring power into the switch box from the breaker box, or you can bring power from the breaker box to your range hood. In this case, that is how we're going to be doing this for this overview. Is we basically are going to bring power from the electrical box into the range hood, which is done already. On this board here, I have two wire diagrams. The first one is this one, and this is the one that we are going to be using. It actually shows the wires from your incoming power from your breaker box coming into that range hood. If you were going to be bringing power from your breaker box to the switch, you'd be using this wire schematic. As you can see here, it's your line from your breaker box coming into the switch box, which would be here. As you can see, this is the power right here. I have that coming in through the hood here. So let's take a look at this wire schematic. As you can see, you have basically, there's two lines that you're going to be running in from the range hood to your switch box. These lines are basically 14-2 cables. I have those lines already done. I actually, for install purposes, so you know what line is what from the range hood to the switch box, I actually label them. In this case, it's line 1 to line 2, and if you follow it up into the range hood, I have it labeled line 1 and line 2, and that way when you look at your schematic, you know what wires to hook up to what switch. First things first, before this is all done, what you're going to do is you're going to remove the filters from this range hood. The next step you would do, I have it sitting here, it's already removed. You would remove the electrical box cover. It's one screw. I just removed it and just set it here. The next step, you can go ahead and you can run your lines. Again, two lines, 14-2. I ran it from the range hood to the switch box. I ran my power in. I used approved wire clamps just to hold the wire. After that is all done, the next step, what you would do is you would remove this cover covering up the nose section of this hood, because we got to be able to get in there. This cover, you're just removing all the screws that you see my fingers running across here. There's also two on the left and two on the right, and this whole panel will come down. What I have here is the actual ADA switch kit. If you open it up here, this is what this kit looks like here. And it comes with 2 switches. It comes with the wire harness, a set of instructions, and the wall plate for that switch. So I'm going to go ahead, the next step, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove this panel, and then we'll come right back after that panel is removed. As you can see, I have this panel disconnected now up inside, so everything is free to get at. If you take a look at the wire schematic, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing the 2 end wires off of that motor switch, just like in that diagram. So off of this motor switch, again, the end 2 wires I'm going to go ahead and remove, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I just disconnected the end 2 wires off the fan switch. It's a black and white one in this case. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the ADA harness that comes with the kit, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to feed that through this hole here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hook these wires up to the appropriate colors. So in this case, if you look at the schematic, the black is going to be hooked up to the orange, and the white is going to be hooked up to the red. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I have the wires hooked up. Again, black to orange, white to red. Now I'm going to go over to the light switch, and it shows disconnecting the blue. So here's the light switch. I'm going to go ahead and reach in and disconnect the blue, and it'll be blue to blue. I'm going to go ahead and connect those. So now that I have all the wires connected, I can go ahead and I can grab the panel here, and I can go ahead and put all the screws back in the panel, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, now that we have the panel back in place and all the screws back in the panel, I went ahead and wired this unit. I'm just going to go over the wiring. Let's start with number 1, which is this cable right here. The black from number 1 went to the orange wire of the harness. The white wire from number 1 went to the red wire of the harness. The number 2 wire, the white wire, went to the blue wire that goes back up to the light. The black wire of number 2 got wire nutted to the power wire coming in from your breaker box. Take note, the black wire coming down is not being used, and what I just did is I put a wire nut on it. All the ground wires are wire nutted together. The white wire from the power gets wire nutted to the white wire going back up into that hood. And that's all it is. What I'm going to do, we're all done in this box. I'm going to go ahead and tuck all these wires back in, put the electrical box cover and the one screw back in, and put the filters back on this unit. And then we'll go ahead and we'll wire the switch. All right. So I went ahead and I put the electrical box on and put the filters back on the unit. Then I went ahead and I wired the switches up. Now this is a two function switch here. If you can take a look at the schematic, one's going to be for the light on off, and the other one is just a switch that when you turn it on, it sends power over to this switch. So here is just a jumper going over, and it's basically feeding this common screw. No matter what position the switch is gonna be at, the fan will automatically turn on once this switch is made. There's no off on this switch, and that's the reason you have a high and low. So I'm gonna go over the wire configurations again. Here's the jumper wire going on over. Off of line 1, you have the black wire to this side of the switch, and you have the white wire going to this side of the switch, like so. Off of line 2, you have the white wire, and again, this is the jumper that feeds this switch. The black wire coming off of line 2 basically goes to the common side of that screw. I'm going to wire the grounds up, and then I'm going to push all the wires back in the box, and I'll show you how the switches work. Alright, now that we have the hood wired and the switch wired, I just want to show you, how this switch works. Now, if you wanted the light on top, obviously you just turn the switch around. In this case, I have the light here. If I hit the switch, the light comes on, so you can turn it on and off, right? Now this switch, remember, when we push this switch here, this just sends power to this switch. So wherever this is on, high or low, it's going to automatically turn on. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this switch, and the unit's running on low. I'll turn it on high so you can actually hear it. You can hear it. Again, if I wanted to turn this off, I just turn the switch to the off position. Again, light, fan, again, that's high. And again, if you wanted to flip the switch around, if you wanted high up on top, you could do that. And there's low. And that's all there is to wiring this ADA kit. I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.